Hi guys, well in a time when case manufacturers are mostly focused on tempered glass and RGB, today we are set to take a look at a new design by WIN which cuts all of that out and it doubles down on function. This here is the C200 as a strong reminder really of yesteryear, with an approach which brings back some of those things which we saw in the early 2000s, such as that optical drive based storage. While C200 definitely has an old school vibe to it, it also brings in some modern features which should offer the best of both worlds, such as easy to remove panels, dust filters, tool-free installation, and USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type-C. Now the pricing for this case sees it arrive at around 100 US and then even 100 in Australia. We couldn't actually get any UK pricing on this particular model here. So there's plenty of cases in that particular price point, but not that many options which are primarily designed for workstation type usage. So it'll be interesting to see what's on offer for the price. Before we begin, today's video is brought to you by ASRock and the Z490 Tai-Chi. This is the company's new top of the line board which carries the new Intel Z490 chipset and has full support for Intel's 10th gen processors and future releases using LGA 1200. Tai-Chi has a strong power delivery system which uses a 14-phase design with DRMOS and premium 60 amp chokes. This board also features a high quality audio package which includes the Nahimic software suite that you can optimize audio for the devices that you use. For more info on the Z490 Tai-Chi, please check out that link in the description. Okay, so let's start at the front of C200. So on this front section we have this plastic panel which in the upper section has two of those full-size 5¼ drive bay covers. Now obviously in the last 5 or so years there has been a movement away from this type of design, but WIN are bringing it back with this content creator focused case with a view to allowing you to install optical drives or even hot swappable devices. In the lower section we have some heavy ventilation to introduce airflow within, as well as cutouts along the edges, and that logo there sits in that corner. Now it is possible to detach this front panel, and removing it reveals a large self-contained filter which again is detachable from the bottom, and it's thick enough to actually house those fans themselves so you won't need to remove any cages inside. And we have the space underneath to install two 120 or 140mm fans, but unfortunately we don't get any included, which is a bit of a shame. Front panel connectivity runs down the right edge of that fascia and it includes a power button, two USB 3 ports, headphone and mic jacks, and a USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type-C. Now with this case being designed for creators, it would have been useful to include more USB on the front panel here to take full advantage of the headers that are sometimes on those high-end boards. Up at the top of C200 we have more ventilation in the form of this removable panel. All you got to do to detach it is to lift it up at the back and pull away from the chassis. This reveals the mounting spots for two 120mm fans, but again none are provided. If you're planning to populate that front drive bay, you'll only be able to utilize one of those fans. Okay, so the side panels are the same on both sides and are completely solid with no distinct features, which again is a nod to this case, focusing purely on function over anything else. And the great thing about these panels is that they're very easy to remove, since they just involve loosening these two screws and the panel will tilt back for removal. With those panels now removed, we have a view inside C200, and as you can see this case still retains a traditional layout for a computer case. It accommodates up to the E-ATX form factor, but inside we've installed an ATX test system. You can see the results are pretty tidy. There's plenty of space to install high-end kits, including storage. Let's now check this out in more detail. Now the power supply sits at the bottom of the chassis, partly concealed behind this shroud on the prominent side, and so to install that power supply you'll need to attach it from the reverse side. And underneath the power supply there is a detachable dust filter which can be pulled out from the side, which should be more preferable for most configurations. Above the power supply we have a series of 7 horizontal PCI covers. Each of those have the ventilation cutouts and they use standard screws. We also get 2 vertical PCI covers if you want to have the graphics card rotated, though with no transparent side panels there probably isn't much point. Above this and at the back of the chassis there is a spot there for a 120mm fan, but again we don't get one included out of the box. And so by now you'll realise that if you want any kind of airflow within C200, you're going to need to take ownership of this yourself. And on a case costing this much we do expect one case fan included at the very least. For storage, C200 offers numerous options and has strong emphasis on support for larger 3.5-inch drives. There are a total of 6 trays for these drives on the front and back of the chassis. All you got to do is drop the drive into the tray, and it offers a tool-free way of installing your storage. These trays can even take 2.5-inch drives as well. As you can see, the mounting holes on the bottom just need to attach those screws. And speaking of 2.5-inch drives, you can install 2 SSDs on the back of the motherboard tray, as there are 2 trays supplied. Again, it's very simple to install these, as the trays just unscrew from the chassis. Next up, let's check out the clearance options within C200, as this will give you an idea if certain kit will fit. And so for the CPU cooler, we have up to around 165mm, which should serve most users. We have a cooler here which is 159, and you can see there's plenty of space left before it touches that side panel. In the graphics card department, there are no problems here either. We have up to 400mm, and if that bottom storage tray there is in the way, it can be removed, but we have around 300mm of space with that attached. And so that will accommodate pretty much any graphics card on the market. Here we have an RTX 2070 for demo purposes. Behind the board is a spot which is important for feeding cables, and we have over 2cm to play with. There is plenty of space to tuck away cables, and of course there are cutouts on the tray for feeding cables to their appropriate locations. The only thing we don't get is the rubber grommets to improve the overall aesthetics. But as you can see, we've been able to keep the interior nice and tidy with a given space and features. And for water cooling, this case has the mounting holes for installing larger 240mm radiators at the top and the front, but you will need to bear in mind there are cages that will ultimately need to be removed, which defeats the object of the design here. If you do want to liquid cool your CPU, then the rear exhaust spot is probably your best bet, and that takes a 120mm. Okay, well, it's clear that WIN C200 is definitely a unique case. It offers a slice of the old and the new. You get some old school touches, but with those updated features. You could say that most case manufacturers have almost lost sight of some of the fundamentals that we've been accustomed to and content creators aren't as well catered for. There's definitely a movement at the moment towards glass panels, RGB lighting. The market is pretty much saturated with those types of cases. So it has been refreshing to see a case come along like the C200, which marries up some of that old with a bit of the new. The design is bold, it's sharp, it might not be everyone's taste, but I actually quite like what we're presented with here. It's got that aggressive stance, and it's going to look great in the office environment. As far as features go, it has the plenty of dust filters, it has the tool-free methods for access but also for the installation of components. It comes with that 5.25 drive bay up at the top there, loads of storage in different places, and also 3.5-inch, 2.5-inch, and of course on the front panel USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type-C. But there are a few things that you should be aware of. There are no fans included, which is a bit of a disappointment at this price point. It would have been nice to see at least one, and at a cost of 100 US to have to then go out, buy a set of fans at 10 to 15 a piece, it is asking a bit much. However, I do like what I see in this C200. It almost has that touch of nostalgia. But what do you guys think of this case here? Let me know by dropping a comment below. We'd love to hear your opinion, and if you've got any questions regarding this case, just ask away and I'll do my best to get back to you. If this is the first time that you've stumbled across our videos, would be grateful if you could subscribe to the channel and make sure those bell notifications are enabled so that you don't miss out on any of our future content when they go up and when they become live. Thanks very much for watching today, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you very soon.